It took only 2 days for the August flooding to upend thousands of lives and to cause more than $52 million in damage in parts of southeastern Wisconsin. Now, help is on the way from FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency. Nearly $30 million is coming to aid homeowners. Joining us to give us the details on what that help from FEMA means is Cassandra Libal. She is the director of the Milwaukee County Office of Emergency Management. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
This flood was historic. Remind us again of what parts of Milwaukee County were hit the hardest.
We saw impacts across the entire county, but I will say that on the northwest side of Milwaukee, we saw significant impacts, as well as West Milwaukee and Wauwatosa. But again, we saw impacts across much of the county.
One thing that you did as part of the Office of Emergency Management was to survey the damage right after the flooding took place. What kind of damage did you see, especially for homeowners?
Well, we were really grateful for our community partners. We called for volunteers to come in, and we could not have done that work without them coming in and helping us canvass throughout the community. And we saw obvious personal loss for items that may have been in your basements and things of that nature. But also we saw damage to foundations, erosion issues, things of that nature. So you think about how water can infiltrate a space, and it pretty much did it in every way. We saw sewer backage, we saw erosion, we saw windblown water. So every mode of water damage that you can imagine, we saw it throughout the county.
And it was severe enough to make some houses uninhabitable.
That's correct. We are a basement community in Wisconsin, and our foundations can be impacted by water. And so we tend to see water in basements, and the significance really comes when you start to see those structures being compromised in our basement structures.
Now that FEMA is here, what kind of help does it potentially bring to homeowners who suffer damages or loss?
This is a phase where we've gotten kind of beyond the immediate danger. We talked about some homes being uninhabitable, but life safety has been shored up, and now FEMA's looking at where they can help individuals. This first round of funding that we see is about trying to get people back to a state of prior to the emergency. So again, making homes inhabitable, helping to replace some of lost damage items. We think in terms of the mechanics of your home, your furnace, your electrical, roof, there could be damage there. So just trying to look at different avenues of funding that can help people get back to home.
When we talk about being made whole, if you're in a situation where your insurance is going to make you whole, then you're really not eligible for support from FEMA, correct?
That's correct. FEMA is just one of many pots that'll be here to help people in this recovery. And we'll see that there'll be people who we're not going to see a replacement of all those heirlooms and things like that. That could be priceless anyway, So we're not going to see a full recovery in that aspect. But FEMA will help out with, like I said, trying to replace some of those mechanics of your home and support some of those things.
One of the things some people discovered, unfortunately, is that they thought their insurance would cover things, but they found out because of the nature of the flood and how the water came into their homes, that they may not have been covered to the extent they believed they were.
And that's where the FEMA funding does come into place. Insurance definitely has its limitations. If you're not in a historically flood zone, you may not have had flood insurance. And so that may not cover everything that you needed to do. And so FEMA can maybe fit into those places where you were uninsured or underinsured. But again, it's just a portion of the recovery that is going to have to happen.
And FEMA really does need some very basic information from people in order to make sure that they qualify.
That's correct. There's some eligibility information that you can find on the FEMA website regarding, residency and things of that nature. So you'll definitely have to make sure that you meet that criteria. Is this your primary home and living spaces and things of that nature? So there are some criteria, and I don't want to misquote, but looking at the FEMA site, they can go through, and if you have any questions, if you are eligible, when in doubt, look for those frequently asked questions or reach out to FEMA for clarification.
When FEMA did come to visit, it did, as your office did, survey damage. And some people may have talked to FEMA. FEMA may have looked at their damage. That's not good enough. Even if FEMA or the county looked at your damage, you still have to apply.
That is correct. So the assessments that we processed with FEMA and with our volunteer teams that went out was really just to get us to this phase, to get us to eligibility. It was not a claim. It was not a documentation in the sense of making any type of recommendations regarding funding. It really was just for us to get a snapshot. So even if you did not speak to someone, this is a representative sample of the damage that Milwaukee County suffered. And so we were able to go out and then gather that information to be able to submit to the state and then to the federal government to say, we have exceeded the resources that we have and we're going to need some additional assistance. So that process really was just in getting us to this phase where we would be eligible and trying to make ourselves in the best position to get FEMA funding.
And now that FEMA has made the declaration, people should really get on this right away and apply as soon as possible.
Absolutely. I think this is Wisconsin, so we know that the weather is going to change. So the sooner you can get things going, the better. You're going to have contractors that are going to be booked quickly. And so getting ahead of that. But also, there may be some exchange of information that has to happen that may require a couple rounds of processing. So the sooner that you can get those submissions in, the better. And the more information you can provide, the better. So then that way, again, you're setting yourself up for the best possible outcome.
And finally, this help that FEMA is providing is individual assistance. Businesses were damaged during the flooding, but there is a place where they can go to begin the process.
That is correct. Separate from FEMA funding, we see that there's individual assistance, which will help individuals with their recovery. There's also going to be, hopefully, a declaration made in regards to public assistance that will help municipalities and public entities with infrastructure. But for those business owners and even for homeowners, there's the Small Business Administration. And the USSBA is a separate entity from FEMA, but also there to help in regards to our businesses, our personal property, things like that, so that we can try to get, again, back closer to that whole picture as possible.
Well, thank you so much for helping us understand this, and hopefully it makes the path a little bit easier for folks who were directly impacted. Thank you.
Now, thank you for having us, and thank you for elevating this information.
Individuals can apply for FEMA assistance directly online at disasterassistance.gov or by calling FEMA at 1-800-621-3362. Coming up next, cleaning up vaccine confusion. Stay with us.